Krishna tells Arjun, of the purifiers I am the wind, of those who hold weapons I am Ram, of fishes I am the alligator, and of rivers I am Ganga. So first of all, of purifiers I am wind. Then he says, of those who hold weapons I am Sri Ram. We now bow down to Sri Ram. Shri Krishna says that of those who hold weapons, Sri Ram is his vibhuti, his divine manifestation. And this is worth understanding a lot. There are many warriors, but Shri Krishna says that out of the warriors, he is Sri Ram. The weapons themselves in Sri Ram's hands show a feature. Sri Ram is the king, he is the husband of Sitaji, he who Hanumanji serves. These are all aspects of Sri Ram. We hold discourses on Sri Ram for a full 9 days, Ramkatha. Many people have read the Ramayanji. We see Sri Ramchandraji in many forms. But here, Shri Krishna said very clearly that of those who hold weapons is Sri Ram. Why did Shri Krishna say this? The first reason for this is that the weapons of Sri Ram are symbols of power. Sri Ramchandraji has weapons, but he has never made wrong use of those weapons. One may have power, but if one does not abuse or misuse the power, then the power which that person has suits the person. This can be power in the power of wealth. If the Supreme Soul has given one a pool of wealth, but many times it seems as if wealth bursts open like an allergy for the person. Many times it seems as if that wealth has a bad smell. We feel as if that wealth is led off a bad smell. It seems like this in many houses. As soon as you enter inside a house, there's not furniture inside a house, but a show of wealth to the extent that the person may not have stuck up notes of money, but it feels like the person just stuck up notes of money. It is an absolute show of money. It also happens many times with power, that a person has power, but a person misuses that power. Sri Ramchandraji has a bow in his hands, and that is why he's called Anudari Ram. He has the power, he has never abused that power, and he has never misused this power. That is why Shri Krishna says that those who hold weapons, Sri Ram is his vibhuti, his divine manifestation. Sri Ram is one who yogis love. Ramate yogna asmin sarama. Why did Sri Ram keep this power? Why did Sri Ram keep his weapons? Scholars say that Ra in Ram signifies earth, and Amati means to protect. Therefore, one who protects the earth is Ram. Amati iti Ramaha. And that is why Sri Ram has kept those weapons. That is the meaning of the word Ram. He protects the earth. One can get wealth and weapons and power. This is also been defined that Ram is one whose wealth is only used for donations. Raha dana dana mera ma lakshmi yasya sa Rama. Then without Sri Ram is one who never retires from, one who never goes back to donations, and one whose whole wealth is of donations and is only used for donations. Ani Vita Datruvat Rama. There is a pledge behind why Sri Ram holds the weapons. In the Valmiki Ramayana, Sri Ram says clearly that Abhayam Sarda Bhuteryo Dadame Tadvatam Mama. I'll give only fearlessness to all creatures. How did the whole Ramayana begin? Does anyone know the origins of the Ramayana? Why it was written? We've seen the Ramayana in many different ways, but very few people have seen it, the root reason why Valmiki wanted to write it. We say that the Ramayana is a story of family, the story of how Manthara poisoned the mind of Kaikeyi. All of these things are true, but what did the Ramayana descend from? The Ramayana was said not because of what Kaikeyi said. Maharishi Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, was walking along the banks of the Tamasa River. He saw an arrow being released from a bow of a hunter to strike one of two sweet-voiced Krauja birds who were making love, and the male bird out of the two fell to the floor and died. The same Balyo who had previously not picked twice before killing another human being, when the same Balyo performed penances on the name of Sri Ram and became the Rishi Valmiki, then he saw a bird dying. At that moment a shriek came out of his heart, which manifested in a verse. He said, Ma nishar prishta madma shaspati sama sakocha mitudnadan adikam moitam. Hunter, did you not see? Because you killed this bird while he was making love, you will not live for long. This is what Rishi Valmiki said. This became the first verse. Think about the picture and what it is. Valmiki just said it, and two questions arose in his mind. The first question was, why did I get angry? Great saints have little moments in their lives where they get angry, but when a common person gets angry, then they try to justify their anger, with great saints think that they must have made a mistake and that they should not have got angry. At least they think about why they got angry, and they make a decision that they will not do it again. This is where a great saint is different from an ordinary person. Valmiki did say it and gave the curse to the hunter, that a hunter would not live for long, but then it came to his mind that, why did I get angry? Why did I give this curse on which my own dunya gets destroyed? I should not have done this. The second thought that came into his mind was, what did I say? This is the first poem that was written in Anustuk Chand, which is a poetic meter consisting of 4 lines of 8 syllables each. This was the first thing that was written in a poetic meter. Valmiki spoke to Naraji and Ramaji, and they said that he had composed poetry, and from this he should compose the whole Ramayana and write about the events. This was the very first poem in the world. On one side was a hunter, and on the other side were the 2 birds. The hunter was a human, and he had the mind, the power, and the instruments. On the other side there were the poacher birds, who were neither humans. They were vulnerable birds, and who did not have an intellect as diverse as that of humans, who did not have as much power as human beings do, and who did not have the instruments that human beings do. On one side you had powerful, and on the other side you had the powerless. When the strong and the weak come and stand opposite each other, then how does a strong person behave towards the weak? These dualities will always remain in society. The haves and the have-nots. This will always be there. How do the haves behave with the have-nots? The Ramayana was composed to give this message. Great saints say to evaluate the whole Ramayana with this perspective. Wherever there are powerful people and there are powerless people on the other side, how do the powerful people behave toward powerless people? We have to make this decision at different steps in our lives. Either we are standing with the powerful one and there are the powerless on the other side, or it can happen that the person on the other side is powerful and we are powerless. The Ramayana teaches us that what the relationship between the two should be like. The Rāma says clearly that because he is powerful, he will use this power, and there is no denying that one should use the power, but for what reason? I will give only fearlessness to all creatures. Sri Rāma used his power to give only fearlessness to all creatures. This thing called fear should be removed from the world. I spoke about this a little earlier, that one has fear only because of the other person. If the other person was not there, there would be no fears in the world. The fear is always there because of the other. Sri Rāma says that he will give only fearlessness to all creatures. That is why Sri Ramchandraji is called Dhantari Ram and holds a bow in his hands. What a splendid thought this is. When Sri Ram had to go to the forest, he bowed down to his mother's feet and left for the forest, but the whole of the city of Ayodhya came to embrace him. When Sri Ramchandraji came outside of the palace, and as soon as the door of the palace was open, at that time Maharishi Vasishtha, who had until then kept his heart fully under control, had his patience shaken. Even his patience was broken. And Sri Ram placed his feet outside the palace of Ayodhya, then Vasishtha put his hand on the pillar and said in the Ramayana that Nahita Dvita Rashtam Yatra Ramo Na Upati Tadvaram Tadvita Rashtam Yatra Ramoni Tatsati. Meaning, in a place where Ram is not king, that place can never be a kingdom, but even the jungle can become a kingdom if Ram is present there. In a place where Ram is not king, that place can never be a kingdom or even strive to become a kingdom. Even if there are nice houses in that kingdom, there are thousands of people living there and everyone else is there, if Ram is not there, then it can never become a kingdom. If Ram is not there, then it's not a kingdom, and if Ram is there, then it is a kingdom. This is the speech of a rishi filled with truth. It is not the dialect of a god to make it sound nice to a king. If you look at it in today's times, then you see how true this saying is. If Ram is not there, then it is not a kingdom, and if Ram is there, then even if it is a jungle, it will become a kingdom. This is because the first reason why a kingdom is created is that so people can live without fear and in peace and happiness. Now, even one step further with me, in each and every one of us, there should be a part of Ram. The reason for this is that when we say kingdom, then it seems very big, and we wonder whether it can apply to us, because it is about kings. No, it also applies to us. Even in our houses, if there are 5 people out there, if there are 5 people, then it is our kingdom. If the 5 people live together in a house, are afraid of each other, and are cutting each other with shadows, and understand that their house is not a kingdom, that their house is not Ram Rajya, the king of Ram, and that there is no beautiful fragrance of Ram in the houses. If people can create such an atmosphere in the houses, then I will give only fearlessness to all creatures. If such an atmosphere is created inside a house, then there will be happiness. Each and every person in the house will sit there waiting for when the other person in the house will come. And the more and more people that come in the house, the more and more bliss will spread and increase in the house. Only then can that house become Ram Rajya, the kingdom of Ram. And this is the job of everyone. Just one person in family cannot do this. Each and every member of the family has to understand this. We're doing it the wrong way around, by waiting for Ram Rajya, the kingdom of Ram, to come to Delhi, London, Washington. When there is no Ram Rajya in one's house, then Ram Rajya cannot come in Delhi, London or Washington. If we go even one step further than this, as we're going forward, we're moving more and more to a subtleness, Just like a country can become Ram Raja, and just like a family can become Ram Raja, in the same way, your own life should become Ram Raja, kingdom of Ram. How can we do this? There should be this abhyatva, fearlessness in our own lives. When we begin the 16th chapter, then we see that God says that fearlessness is the very first quality to describe a divine person. If you want to define a person who is divine, the first quality that's described by Shri Krishna is fearlessness. Adayam sattasam shuddhi gnana yoga vyavasthiti. Fearlessness, purity of mind, wise apportionment of knowledge and concentration. Abhyatva, fearlessness is the first divine quality. How can we see whether a person is divine or not? There are two qualities. He or she should not fear others, and second, others should not fear him. We already know the meaning of abhyatva, fearlessness, that one is not afraid of others. But what if others are afraid of him? In that case, it's very bad, and such a person can be called a rakshas, a demon. A rakshas demon does not fear anyone, but others fear him. This is the difference between a divine person and a demonic person, and also between divine nature and demonic nature. A person with a divine nature does not fear others, and nobody fears him. Shri Krishna says this in the Gita in many different ways. In the 12th chapter of the Gita, Shri Krishna describes the ideal devotee and uses the word maitra, friendly, in the description. This is the first qualities to describe the definition of devotee. Number one, he who has no ill will being to any being. Number two, who is friendly. And number three, who is compassionate. An ideal devotee is seen like a friend to everyone. There should be Rāma, the kingdom of Ram, a kingdom, in a family, and also in our lives. Now the steps taken have been such that first, if there is Rāma, the kingdom of Ram in our lives, Rāma Shastra Bhutamaham, and we can understand this, then there will be Rāma, the kingdom of Ram in the family. When there is Rāma, the kingdom of Ram in the family, then there will be Rāma, the kingdom of Ram in the country. This is the route that one has to take. Shri Krishna then says, of the fishes I am the alligator, and then of the rivers I am Ganga. There is the following prayer, you must remember the river Ganga. Papahari Purimam, O Mother Ganga who removes sins, make me pure and remove my sins, Mother. This is a direct request, and when this request is said with feeling, then Mother Ganga certainly accepts it. God says that all the rivers, He is Ganga. I'm often asked the small question whether it's really true what it said that bathing in a river Ganga washes away sins. This saying is very true. One's life becomes purified by bathing in the river Ganga. Who's bathed in the river Ganga here? So you know what I mean. Think about it, in ancient times, the people would be thinking throughout their entire lives that they want to bathe in the river Ganga. This is because each and every human being had made some mistake at some point or the other in their lives in some way or the other. And guilt complex that a person gets after mistakes tortures him so much. He thinks that I have sinned, I made a mistake. This tortures a person. During ancient times, every 6 months or 8 months, a person would perform the pilgrimage by foot, walking and walking and walking until he reached the river Ganga. He would worship Mother Ganga, feelings would arise in his heart, and after saying Jai Ganga Maya, victory to Mother Ganga, he would take a dip, and at that moment it would occur to him that all his sins had been washed away. The reason for this is that what millions of people have been saying for thousands of years cannot be wrong, can it? And mass psychology is working here. The person feels that his sins have been washed away, and now his life has become purified. When this person goes back to his hometown and begins the rest of his life, if such an event comes and arises in his life where he has to do something wrong, then the question arises in his mind that until now everything wrong I had done was washed away when I bathed in the Gangaji. But what if I do something wrong now? Now will I be able to go to Gangaji? Now I cannot do this, and how much is left? This is the consequence of bathing in the Gangaji, that after bathing in the Gangaji, the rest of one's life certainly becomes purified, and this is the greatness of Gangaji. Apart from that, you cannot take it as a policy matter. Guruji met a person on a train. He was going to Baroda, and the person going to Baroda, Guruji is going somewhere else. He came and sat next to Guruji. Guruji doesn't like talking while he's traveling, so he's either reading or resting or looking at the scenery. The person told Guruji that he likes listening to his discourses, and he told Guruji that they were fine. Guruji said, what do you mean they're fine? He said, it sounds nice to hear, but if you look at it in practical life, the society is such that a person has to commit a lot of sins. One cannot go without committing sins. He would not stop, it kept saying in his speech that one has to commit a lot of sins. One has to commit a lot of sins. One has to commit a lot of sins. He ran this for 1 hour, and Delhi in Mumbai come. Guruji was making arrangements to sleep. Guruji was finding his speech trivial. He asked this person where he was going, and he said that he was going to the river Ganga in Haridwar. Guruji asked him why. He He said that he wanted to bathe in the river Ganga because Kartiki Poonam, which is the full moon night after Diwali, was coming up, and it was his rule that every Kartiki Poonam, full moon night after Diwali, he would go and bathe in the river Ganga. Guruji told him that it's very good if you go do this once, but why going every time? He told Guruji that he was going to wash his sins away. Guruji told him that it is fine if you go to wash your sins away, and if you go once then your sins get washed away, why then do you need to go every year? He said that it was because the sins will start again from Vadekam, which is the next day after Kartiki Poonam. What person this was? He began sinning again on Vadekam, the next day after Kartiki Poonam, so that he would go to wash his sins away again. They saw the ticket conductor coming, and he told Guruji that he would come back in 5 minutes. He got uncomfortable upon seeing the ticket conductor coming. The ticket conductor was checking everyone's tickets, and he went and sat behind the seat. He came back and began telling Guruji again that one has to commit a lot of sins, Guruji told him to stop his talk and asked him to explain the reason why he went away when the ticket conductor came. He told Guruji, "What can I hide from you now? To tell you the truth, I have not even bought a ticket." Guruji told him, "You're a remarkable person. On such a pure day of Kartiki Poonam, you're going to bathe in the Gangaji to wash your sins away, but you're going without having bought a ticket. Can you do this? You'll incur sin out of this." He told Guruji, "I'm going to wash my sins away, and this is just one additional one. It's going to be washed away there, is it not?" This is an incorrigible person. When the Mother Ganga began to wash the sins of people like this, then since then Gangaji got dirty. The Gangaji that has not gotten dirty for the last 5,000 years, the same Gangaji has gotten dirty in the last 50 years. There is no such detergent in the waters of the river Ganga that can wash away a person's sins. This is a psychological entry for a human being to make a manifestation of purity inside himself, that now I have become pure. The person makes the decision that from now on I do not want to commit any sins. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was asked the same question, that when do one's sins get washed away after bathing in the river Ganga? Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, they do not go anywhere. When you go to bathe in the river Ganga, then all the sins get released while you're in the river Ganga, and this is a fact. But those sins that get released from your body go sit in the trees nearby, and when we come out having bathed, then all our sins come back onto us. This is what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says. What I mean to say is that when a person's decision changes, only then do the sins go far away, and the power to make a decision is in the Gangaji. The purity to change the decision is in the Gangaji. That is why the Supreme Soul says that Gangaji is his Viruti, divine manifestation. I get so lost in the greatness of the words of the Gangaji. Whenever I go to Hakipedi, hold the chain and take the dip in the Gangaji, and I feel the purity of the Gangaji. Let us go to the next verse. Verse 30.